Tell them who feels it.
Sure, this is.
Right? I know. I had to tell the person. I don't know why you play that song.
Well, good morning, guys. Welcome to Who Feels It Knows It. We go in. Very pleasant good morning to all the listeners of Tambourine Radio 92.7 Uptown Scarborough, next to the salmon tree. You have been hearing my voice and the voice of a few others for the past few days. A program that we call Who Feels It Knows It. And this program, of course, is held under the auspices of the Tobago People's Party. And we put the program together primarily, of course, to put some information in this space, hopefully, because we have this sense that the vote on the 28th must be an informed vote. We have this sense that people vote for different reasons. There are all kinds of different emotions and circumstances around vote. But when we think about how critical this vote is to the Tobago people, we felt compelled to have a program like this. And we have discussed a myriad of issues since we started, all in relation to the governance in Tobago, in relation to representation in Tobago. And we want to continue this morning. We have been favored to have sitting in the chair with us today the beautiful Secretary for Finance. I would like to call her Lady Petal, who is is a qualified lady in finance and accounts and so on, and so we are thankful for that. And so I'm sure that what we're going to hear today will be professional financial perspectives, let me put it that way. So Secretary, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. I would call it the master of the ceremony this morning.
Well, I'm going to take what I could get. Yes.
Good morning to Tobago. It's a pleasure to be here. Mm-hmm. It's also a privilege to speak to the people of Tobago on matters relating to your finances. It's not mine. It's not yours. It's not the Chief Secretary and the political leader, Fali Chavez Augustine.
Right.
This we are just custodians.
Right.
Just managing on behalf of the people of Tobago.
Right.
So I'd like to bring, to the fore and to the people of Tobago, the realities that we really face, and also the truth, because there are things I want to clear up this morning. Because there are people out there giving misinformation to the people of Tobago, and it is my responsibility as the Secretary of Finance, who was given a mandate to manage the finances, to tell the people of Tobago that is not true.
Good.
So thank you very much for having me, and at the short notice, it was absolutely no problem. To do this.
I mean, I know the Easter weekend, there are so many activities and stuff, but we felt that we have a commitment. I mean, we're on the cusp of the election.
Yes.
I almost think that it was strategic by the then government to put the election around this time, attempting to use anything at their advantage. But we have stepped up to the plate to prove that we are ready. Of course. So the issue really, this election really is about representation.
Yes.
And we have picked for the past 10 years 2 people to represent us in Tobago. We would have liked to think that these persons will represent the material interests of the people of Tobago.
Yes.
We are not naive. We understand that people are connected to a political organization, and so there is a place for collective responsibility. We understand that.
Yes.
However, there are some issues that are so acid, they have to be treated as independent issues because they are pertinent to the people that you represent.
Yes.
One of them, obviously, is the financing of the Tobago government.
Yes.
We have lamented over and over and over that the reason why we cannot do all that we want to do to furnish our people with the kind of services that they elected us to provide for them, it is because of a lack of funding. And we understand a lack of adequate funding. Let me put it that way.
Correct.
We understand that when a person controls your money, they control you.
Mm-hmm.
I am one of those secretaries who believe that the attitude towards the financing of the Tobago government is part of a larger plan. Is a larger plan to maintain power or to regain power. You understand, in this place that we call Tobago, and by extension the country, because there seems to be a upward mobility by the people of Tobago to come into their own. We have come to this place where we say, listen, we want to chart our own course. We want all Tobagonians to be the beneficiaries of the best life that we can afford in this place called Tobago. So I want you to begin to talk to us about the funding shortages. Talk about the rules as to how the money is supposed to come and when the money is supposed to come, and if it does not come, right, and all those kind of things. So let's talk about that.
All right, so let me just introduce myself, and it's not about gloating, but really to let you know that I have had about 16 years in the DHA.
Mm-hmm.
And being a member of this party, it would be remiss of me if I didn't do this for the people of Tobago.
Right.
Because you would know this job could be very unrewarding at times.
Yes.
But it is really serving the people. And I really think that with the experience that I have and knowing what I know, it would only be best that I represent at a time like this.
Right.
I also want to endorse what you just said. I think that Tobago has not had the opportunity to realize its fullest potential. Tobago is a beautiful island with beautiful people.
Yes.
But you just said that if you control my money, you control me.
Yes.
And I don't think we can get away from them controlling us, because we are sub-sovereign. We are the national anthem said every creed and race find an equal place, and side by side we stand. But really and truly, if you really think of it, that is the central government. But in the wisdom of those who created and established and developed this Tobago House of Assembly Act, every time I read it, I said, whoever crafted this legislation or this bill at the time understood what we would face now.
Right.
However, I must say that the legislation has passed its time.
Right.
And it is really time for us to get an opportunity that is fair, reasonable, and just, so that us here in Tobago can realize our fullest potential. I think we have potential to be equal in terms of development with Trinidad.
Yes.
But there is a calculated effort to keep us back.
Indeed.
I want to tell Tobago firstly about this 4.03%, which is really the minimum share. And that was way back in the early 2000s, when the metric that we wanted to use to share so that everyone can get a fair share of the dollar was the share of Tobago's population in comparison to Trinidad's population.
Okay.
And at the time, the metric said that when you do the math, Tobago formed about 4.03% of the national population.
Okay.
And therefore, it was fair, reasonable, and just at the time to give us 4.03% of the budget. We are in 2025. For the last 3.5 years, or I would say 4 years, we have been getting, in this administration, about 4.35%, 4.3 to 4.35%. And that is not fair. I want to tell Tobagonians, because our population, the last census that they did with Trinidad versus Tobago, the population share as of 2022 was 5.05%. We rounded off to 5.1.
Okay.
And then, if you look at the development of Tobago as opposed to Trinidad, it would be reasonable and fair to take that up a little bit.
Right.
Because we have to play catch up with Trinidad.
Of course.
It is very impractical for you, Pastor Baines, to access education, healthcare, and all these other amenities.
Right.
If you were to compare yourself with Trinidad.
Indeed.
Whenever I travel, on state business. And it's a Trinidad-led delegation.
Yes.
You know, I always have to laugh because they're driving home.
Of course.
But sometimes I have to sleep on the airport.
Indeed, in 2025.
I don't get home until the next day.
Right,
or I have to pay an additional cost by staying in a hotel. Right? So there are some differences, some disparities that you have to put a cost.
Of course.
So in the last budget, we said, you know what? We're not going to ask for 6.9%, which is the maximum.
Right.
Because we are fair, reasonable, and just people.
Got you.
We said we're going to ask for 5.8%, which is 5.1%. And then we looked at some of the developmental aspects of Tobago.
Right.
That where we need to catch up with Trinidad. So we asked for 5.8%. And I'm happy that we are on public record, and I will tell you, I'm not speaking after anybody.
Right.
When we went to the minister, every year the Minister of Finance meets with the ministry, the Tobago House of Assembly. There's a team led by the Secretary of Finance, and there's a team from the ministry who's in the room.
Right.
And we pled our case. We brought 10 items before the minister, and one of them was this percentage share of the national budget.
Right.
We had predicated it about 60 billion at the time, and we asked the minister for 5.8. We came and we said, listen, we need about 5.8%.
Right.
This is this is the percentage we're looking at
right.
for fiscal 2025. The minister said to me, if I give you more than 4.35%, I'll have to give Trinidad less. And that goes to tell you how this administration thinks of Tobago.
Yes.
As if we are lesser. So if I give you more. Right. So with this bill that they came with the other day for self-determination or self-governance or whatever you want to call it, they are saying to us, you could get more if it's bill, but why don't you give me? I didn't ask for 6. I didn't ask for 6. I didn't even ask for 5.9. We asked for 5.8. And the minister said to me, with witnesses, in company of both THA representatives and the Ministry of Finance representatives, saying to us, if I give you more, it means that I'll have to give Trinidad less. So that goes to show that is the policy. Right. Of that administration.
Of course.
And that is the sad realities that we face. So we left that meeting knowing that there is absolutely no fair, reasonable, and just way that this government will give Tobago just due. I'll tell you another thing. If we are looking at the Tobago representative, the Tobago aspect, the percentage share, what that really means is that every person in Tobago must get their dollar, right? So the percentage really represents, if Tobago receives 5.8% or 5.1, every Tobagonian will get their fair share of the dollar. You know what is happening right now? You know why people are squealing at us here as a government? Because what we receive, it just does not represent a dollar for everyone.
Right, I got you.
So some are benefiting from it, and others are not.
Right.
And that is only because what we receive from the government, that 4.35%, is only a sector.
Yes.
Only some people.
Gotcha.
Which we try to spread it across. So if everyone were to get $1, some people get 25 cents.
Right.
Some people getting 50 cents. Some people getting $1.
Yes.
Because it's difficult to really spread these resources thinly across the
Got you. Now, the reason why a conversation like this is useful, because a lot of people do not have the latitude or the constitution, let me put it that way, to analyze things this way.
Yes.
I mean, especially a larger percentage of the people that go to the polls are kind of middle and lower class, for want of a better phrase, persons who just go to the polls and vote over temporary stuff.
Yes.
And so they are cultured to think that the government's supposed to provide this, government's supposed to provide, and if you can't provide it, they don't want to hear no explanation.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
You're absolutely right.
Right.
Yes.
So I believe that when I said earlier that the central government, the then central government, all this is part of their weaponry.
It is.
You understand?
Yes.
Because if you keep the Tobago population subservient, if you keep underfunded, if you keep putting us in that position, the population who live here in Tobago are not going to exact the vengeance on Port of Spain.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Even this present election, they are not prosecuting Port of Spain. They are not prosecuting. They are prosecuting the THA and the function of the THA and so on in providing basic goods and services
They
for
know
them.
what they are doing. It's
Yes.
calculated.
Yes. And so I think that the people of Tobago, when I said that this has to be an intelligent vote and a truthful vote, there must be an appreciation for what the central government has been doing as it relates to their treatment of Tobago and the resources that they provide. So we understand now that it is a policy decision. So all the things that the representative for Tobago West and Tobago East was saying, those things are just is a smoke screen.
Yes.
You understand? They are just is part of the narrative that finds its reference in what the minister really said.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So the people of Tobago are at this juncture now that you have to now consider an election is upon us, and there is no evidence to suggest that what you have described is going to change, because it represents a philosophy of that particular central government. So we are saying that there needs to be a regime change if Tobago is going to succeed. So I want us to talk a little bit more, Secretary, about the timelines as to which the resource supposed to come to the Tobago government to carry out its function, and if and when it doesn't come on time, what is the exposure of the Tobago government?
You know, before I go to that, I must touch that. But
Right.
before I go to that, I want to talk about the allocation in itself.
Right.
This year, just to remind Tobagonians, because everybody don't follow numbers.
Of course.
This year, the Tobago House of Assembly was allocated about $2.375 billion for recurrent expenditure and $205 million for development.
Right.
I try to read the papers every day, and I read an article where the Ministry of Works is doing a road paving program under Petal.
Yes.
That's a program under the Ministry of Works. We have a line item for that as well. Petal was allocated, and they intend to spend. Well, they allocated $110 million to pave roads in Trinidad. You know how much we were allocated in the division?
Yes.
$1 million.
Yes.
So, and you know what they said in the budget leading up to this fiscal year that we're in? They said that they would like to spend $210 million.
Yeah.
Our vote for an entire island allocation for development is 205.
200.
So the entire road paving program in Trinidad
Yes.
is far more,
Of course.
than the development budget for an entire
I'm telling you.
island. I want Tobagonians to understand
yes.
the policies of this central government and the policies of this party for stagnation for Tobago.
Yes.
We must not move.
Right.
We must stay cussing the THA.
Yes.
Because
yes.
I'll tell you something, before I go to what you asked me to speak about. This Tobago People's Party, well, it started off as the PDP, and now the Tobago People Party. But under the leadership of Ali Shafed Augustine, persons would want to say, what is the material improvement that we have seen in Tobago with a change of government? Because we had PNM at the central government level and in the Tobago House of Assembly at PNM.
Yes.
And there might be some detractors that would want to say when PNM is in the office in both sides, Tobago and Trinidad, we are at an advantage, and I want to dispel that.
Yeah, but there's no evidence to substantiate
but
that.
I'll tell you, I like to bring the evidence.
Of course.
When the People's National Movement was in party for the 21 years from 2000 to 2021, we had the same problems that we have, but it was worse in terms of how the monies come to Tobago. Because really and truly, the law says that we must receive our allocations in Tobago quarterly, on block, that means on a whole, all in advance.
Right.
So if we are in April now, by April 1st, we should have received April, May, and June releases.
Right.
So we better able to plan
Of course,
and
of
to
course,
pay
of course.
people
It's a
on
government
time.
running, yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Now, releases came on a monthly basis. In 1 year, I think it was somewhere around 2017 or 2016, the cost of that was $10 million, and that's what they call overdraft interest.
Right.
But when the current chief secretary and political leader of the Tobago's People Party came into office, he went to the ministry and says, you have to give us our allocations according to the law. The minister at the time says that would be very impractical because of how they receive releases. And we were not hard and fast, which we should have been, because that's what the law says. It's the law that governs the Tobago House of Assembly.
Of course.
And they said, all right, I'll give you 2 months, 1 month. So that means up front, I'll give you 2 months worth of allocation or releases. And then I'll give you the 1 month in the ensuing month for the quarter. And that reduced the overdraft interest. Right now, it's about $2.5 billion. So I want to tell the people of Tobago, the benefits, the material benefits of having a party like the Tobago's People Party in office. And we are really seeing that.
Right.
The thing is, they are trying their best to keep us down.
Right.
They're trying their best. So I want to go to the question that you asked, and that's why I brought up the material benefits of this party being in office, fighting for Tobago.
Yes.
Because we saved $8 million. I'm telling you right now, the overdraft interest is about $46 million.
Wow.
And I want Tobago to understand this. Banks do not wait on you. They don't send us an invoice.
Right.
If you have $30 as your service fee in the bank, it comes out automatically. So if you have $50, you will end up with $20.
Yes.
And let me tell Tobagonians right now, we are 46, close to 50 million, because I can't tell you what the overdraft interest as we speak right now.
Right.
But as within the last month or so, we owed about 46, $47 million. But what that really does to us, it reduces the liquidity position. And let me break it down. The cash that we have in the bank, we don't really have the liquid cash. Because the bank have already taken out their overdraft fees. Cumulatively, right now, we are in a hole about $47 million. But what I did, to be fair, reasonable, and just, I said to the minister, the cost that we have to pay, the financing cost of the late releases, it is not our fault. But really and truly, what that does for us, we are getting the blows from the public for late payments and so forth, and we have less money. So if we are saying now we have $2.37 billion on the recurrent and $205 million for DP, minus $50 million from that. Because we don't have the liquid cash. The bank already took out the monies, and the monies go into one fund called the THA fund. So that is the repercussion of us receiving the monies late. So you're receiving the monies late, and you have less to spend.
And because of their action, we have a further exposure of 50 million to the banks. Because that's how they operate in not providing the money according to law.
Correct.
You understand?
Correct. So the bank has already taken out their money. So when you think you have 100 million, you really have 50.
It's 50.
Yes.
No, I also heard that cumulatively over the years of the underfunding that they are still owing the THA money at this point. I've heard that we have some money outside.
Yes.
And the THA money not supposed to sleep out so long.
Yes, so let me explain that one. So when the appropriation bill is passed, it becomes an act of parliament. And I don't know if people follow, but when the budget is read, about 2 weeks later, a few days after, we go back to the parliament and we defend the budget.
Right.
So we go back and we say mostly new items and increases or decreases. The opposition will question why it is we have this allocation for this line item and so forth. After that is done, they debate it, it's passed. And it says that the Tobago House of Assembly should receive for fiscal 2025, I'm using 2025 as an example, $2.375 billion for recurrent and the 205 million for development program. But what happens in reality? We have an offsetting arrangement in Tobago where we collect the revenues and they minus it. So it's like this. I want to use it in layman's terms. You have a parlor. And I want to use an example. Let me see how easy I could make this. You have a parlor. The truck comes to top up some commodity that you sell.
Yes.
But then you don't take the monies from the till. You might take the money from a sale that you where you just received revenue. You just sold an item. So rather than taking money from the till, you take money from your cash pan, or a customer just came into the shop. What happens is that at the end of the day, when you try to balance your till and what your cash, the amount, the cash that you have, and the amount that you're really supposed to have at the end of the year, it's imbalance. Because really and truly, you're doing a balancing act. The government does not give Tobago the 2.375. The government probably gives us about 2.1 because we project to collect about $200 million in revenue in Tobago. So the government says, all right, you collect the revenue here and I will give you the difference. But remember, we collect money right up to September 30th. And we have to send down to Trinidad, this is the amount that we collected. We seldom ever get it to the cent. The government never gives us because they calculate beforehand how much they give us. Even though we say, all right, as at September 30th, I've only collected 190. So therefore, you have to give me the difference of the shortfall. So right now, we did a calculation over the last 10 years. The government have $163 million for us. And that is a shortfall. And really, and that's against the law because there's an appropriation act passed by Parliament to say Tobago should receive these allocations. So that is why you just talk about a shortfall. We are owed around all fronts. And, you know, when you're really owed by the Tobago House of Assembly, you might say, me and K, I want my money. I did a service. But we are in a bind because we're not collecting our monies on time. We have a finance cost, which is an overdraft interest we have to pay. We don't collect it all money according to the Appropriation Act because really and truly, as I said, whatever we were supposed to collect, well, at September 30th, when we say, all right, you gave me this, I collected this, and it's not adding up. So you still have this to me. And we would write them. It's not that I'm just saying this, you know. There are a lot of communication in writing, formalized in writing, saying, this is how much you gave us in the Tobago House of Assembly, this is how much we have collected, so therefore the balance should be this. And they completely ignore the amount of monies that we have. And I'll tell you, we have advanced this in the Tobago People's Party, this administration, more than ever before. Because can you imagine the previous finance secretary going to the Minister of Finance and saying, you have this money for me? You might get a call from Mason Hall saying, what calling me? But nobody on this side can call us. We are speaking on behalf of the people of Tobago, saying this is the amount of money you have for us.
No. I mean, you've said a lot, Secretary. And the thing is that based on what you've laid out, this money comes to us pretty much for recurrent expenditure. The lion's share, but although they try to lie to the public and give the impression like, well, this money that we could do, move heaven and earth with it, but really it's just is for goods and services, salaries and those kinds of things. There are some items that are 6 schedule items, meaning that they fall under the central government, national security as one, public utilities, and so on. We in the Tobago House of Assembly have been treating with assisting police officers, assisting Coast Guard and all this kind of things.
Yes.
Right? In fact, I remember you furnished me with some information where an exposure of about, by now, should be about 4 million plus from 2020 or 2021 to present.
Correct.
Monies that came out of the coffers of the THA to assist with police officers, with rental of vehicles and providing boarding and all these things, when these things fall squarely under the purview of the Ministry of National Security, who has a budget, I mean, that gone, what is that, 1 point something billion, I believe it yeah,
I think it's
right? But because these particular services has to do with the safety and security of the Tobago people, the THA takes the initiative to try and provide support. You understand?
Yes.
With things that we're not supposed to, so that even goes further into the coffers of monies that we don't have little of as well. So I wanted to jump off from that particular situation and others relating to it, and then we want to go into talk about this oil spill that we didn't plan.
Yes.
You understand, that has come upon us, and how that impacts the funding in Tobago, the monies that we had, where we had to find money to treat with stuff initially. All right, so we need to take a break. This time just fly inside the studio here. we had to talk to Mr. Liko, maybe a different club, right? So we're taking a break, and we're coming back to talk about this matter. We are speaking with the Secretary for Finance, Lady Petal, and this is Who Feels It Knows It here on Tambourine Radio. We'll be back shortly.
It's time to stand up, time to speak out.
Let's get your team some up and running.
You better, because don't tell you got your out.
I don't
So if
understand.
you have it, don't play that.
Yes. Right. Yes. Okay. Somebody saying that your Petal's volume is a little low. I don't know if
Yeah, he was saying that too.
it's better now.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
My inexperienced kids.
How long is it going?
Going to 10.
Oh God, that's it, boy.
Yeah.
Well, I really want to touch on this one.
Yes, well, we go to that now.
So I'll talk about what you just said, and then we'll go straight to
Yeah,
the other
sure.
Right, so you have one more commercial and then we come back.
Okay, cool.
That was a paid political advertisement. The following is a paid political advertisement.
That is somewhere? Is it?
Yeah. I'm impressed with you.
That's it?
Yes.
Okay.
Guys, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
You're
here.
back.
No. I'm multitasking, brother.
But I said they wasn't hearing me at all. It seems as if they wasn't hearing anything.
I know.
We're not hearing you on.
Well, I get it sorted out.
Oh God, so the first half they wasn't hearing
No, man.
Yeah, no, your mic for a reason louder than his. I don't know why.
But is it that I was low because they said I'm not hearing? I hope at least they were hearing something and not. I hope I was not mute.
Well, you're on.
Yeah.
Like they say it's low.
Oh, they said it was low. Okay.
That's what it is.
Plus you're live on YouTube and Facebook. Right?
Okay. Okay.
So, but probably we'll come back with the team song and then.
Sure.
And you just continue.
That was a paid political advertisement.
Ready to go?
Welcome back. In case you're now joining us, this is Who Feels It Knows It on Tambourine Radio 92.7 Uptown Scarborough. And of course, this program is held under the auspices of the Tobago People's Party. We have a vote that's coming up on the 28th of this month, and we are trying our best to put tangible information in this space so that you can be informed when you go to the polls. And those of you, I know there are some people who have no interest in that at all. We hope that the information will urge you, would give impetus for you to go out and exercise your franchise on that day, and it would be an informed vote. We are talking about representation in Tobago, matters that are pertinent to the Tobago people, and so on. So we are speaking, of course, with the Secretary for Finance, Secretary Petal Roberts, and she has been putting some information in here that I believe is second to none as it relates to the financial situation that we are in and all of that. We want to go take the conversation a little further. Just a few nights ago, the Prime Minister made some comments about oil spill related matters, and we are of the view that some of those comments were an elastification of the truth. And so I'm going to ask the Secretary to clarify and to take it further. Go ahead. I almost say in Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name, yes.
Yes.
We need Jesus in this
Yes.
time.
Yes.
All right. So you had asked me a question before the break.
Right.
I just want to touch on it.
Sure.
If we did not have the overdraft facility, which probably came about somewhere in the early 2000s, year 2000, under Dr. London, can you imagine what our lives would be like?
Right.
And I use that in the same vein as speaking about the expenditure that we incur for other ministries. And,
Yes.
and you spoke about the Ministry of National Security, whose budget, by the way, for fiscal 2025 is $2.327 billion, which is the equivalent to the Tobago recurrent budget.
Right.
Well, it's just about $50 million less. In Tobago, we are very vulnerable to the crime situation,
Sure.
and the impact on the crime is I think it's more costly to us than in Trinidad.
Certainly.
And therefore, we spend on average about $1 million to bolster and to supplement the services provided by the Ministry of National Security.
Right.
We have a vote item where we house members of the Defense Force and the police, and we also incur costs for additional patrols across Tobago.
Rental
and
vehicles and so.
You rightfully said that this is really 6 schedule items.
Yes.
Because we have 33 items under the 5th schedule that we should take care of. But the fallout, if we don't do this, may be so grave.
Yes.
That we have to take the initiative and these steps to take care of this expenditure. There are other items under the outside of the 5th schedule, but I really can't touch on that this morning because of in the interest of time.
Yes.
I really want to get to the oil spill.
Sure.
And I want to give a little history for those who never heard me articulate and escalate this in this space. How this oil spill, how we managed it.
Yes.
And I feel a sense of disappointment. But there's more than that. To hear a man from Tobago, the political leader of an opposing party, going out there and telling such a blatant lie.
Yes.
I don't know if it's because of an election that you will come out.
But there's no consequence to it. That
and then you have people on his party saying to me, why I don't bring the evidence? Why don't he bring the evidence? If you are making claims that we have incurred some expenditure that is outside or unrelated to the oil spill, bring it on the platform
of course.
And allow us to defend. But persons are asking me, why don't I?
Right, I got you.
I don't understand that. The truth needs no defender. But I will bring context and bring some history on what happened on February 7th last year and how we managed it, because this is a very, very serious matter that we had to deal with. We have staff that did not sleep during the oil spill. They worked 24/7.
Right.
And for us to give them additional funding, we could not, because out of $50 million, we just could not give them what they were asking for. We did pay them an honorarium, a one-off payment, just to show appreciation to those who worked tirelessly throughout the oil spill. But you want to scandalize an oil spill, a disaster, a catastrophe that happened in Tobago, and saying to us that we have asked for monies for expenditure unrelated to the oil spill, and I can't understand it. But let me just go back to February 7th. We were almost mid-year in the fiscal 2024 budget year. And you know our situation in terms of funding. It was February, so that means in January we only received January and February's allocation. And you know, I didn't say to you before and to the people of Tobago that our recurrent allocation, about 42% of that is employment costs.
Sure.
That's personal expenditure, that's public servants' pay, and all their related employment expenses. Contract employment and short-term employment. Those are the three categories, and then you know you have your daily rated workers on the recurrent. That accounts for about 42%. That's over $800 million. Then we have current transfers and subsidies. We as a government have to give support to non-profit organizations. We give to churches, sporting organizations, community organizations, and we have companies under the Tobago House of Assembly where we give a subvention. And that forms about 36%. Excuse me. The balance of about 20-something% is really discretionary, and that's what we have to use to do the other business of the assembly. So I would like to say that the 42% that I first spoke about in terms of employment cost is really fixed. We can't not pay people because the fallout of that
everything fall down.
Would be grave.
Yes.
And then we have to give support to those NGOs and those non-profit organizations and the churches. We have to give support to them because they operate really depending on us. Right? And the kind of corporate social responsibility and the contribution that they give to the society, you really can't put a cost to that. So we give to them. So we really have about 20-something% of the budget to treat with all the other matters. And that's what we faced during the oil spill. So on February 7th, this thing happened, and we could not activate in terms of finding the financial resources one time to treat with it. So obviously, it's credit. We do purchase orders, we have a procurement process. And then it was time to pay. So in March, the Chief Secretary mandated an ad hoc committee that came together. It included myself, who was the chief management accountant at the time, Mr. Alan Stewart. We also had a multidisciplinary committee for the oil spill that had all different professionals, the engineers, the people from public health. I was also on that committee. We had procurement on that committee, just to manage anything that came out of the oil spill. We were the ones that advised the chief and assisted in managing this whole oil spill affair.
Secretary, hold on. Isn't there not in this country a facility to treat with oil spill from a national standpoint? I'm asking that because one would think that particular facility will kick in immediately to treat with the matter, but it seems to me that the TH had to take the initiative because of whatever the reason, and it is representative of the same thing we start talking about, how they treat Tobago.
That's how they treat Tobago.
You know, what from your assessment, what was the cost, the full cost of the oil field cleanup? Right.
So we had international bodies and countries representing, persons representing countries, or representatives from countries who had oil spills before. So there was Petrobras, a company from Brazil that came in, and they did an assessment for us because, we never faced this before.
Sure.
So they were the ones that advised us, and they said that this thing can last about 9 months. So when I did the projections, because I was the one that did the projections for the oil spill,
right,
we projected about $153.5 million. And I have the breakdown for that, because it involved the cost of the environmental impact, and even restoring the environment. We had even medical and health costs that persons who were exposed, who were actually working on the oil spill, they might have gotten sick, and we would have had to bear the brunt of that. We also had this committee, which we had to absolve after a while because we saw the oil spill was cleaned up. Thank God that the oil spill did not last the anticipated time that the professionals told us that it would last. But the oil spill, in actuality, costed us about $76 million to date. $76 million. So it was half, and that was only because I would like to commend those involved in the cleanup efforts. They did a fantastic job. That this thing did not linger and languish for a very long time, right? Because from the assessment that the internationals did, they said this could last a very long time, right? So in March, the service providers, by the way, we also had to, there was some expenditure that persons don't even know we had to activate, like accommodation. There were professionals and specialists that had to come from Trinidad, and with immediate effect. To deal with the oil spill, we had to house them for maybe a month. So there was an emergency period of the oil spill, right? And then we came out of the emergency period and where we were just managing. In March, the Chief Secretary put together two committees. We had a multidisciplinary committee and we had an ad hoc committee, which was just a smaller group of about 6 of us. And what we did, we tried to find a way to find the resources to pay for what had transpired. And I'll tell you, we had to activate some emergency services and emergency procurement practices because of the oil spill. Because we never experienced this before. So some of the things you don't even know what to do. You just have to activate.
But I still acting secretary because remember on the national front, they've had spills in Vesini, they've had spills going down on the southern peninsula before, and that particular committee or whatever they have has been activated immediately to treat with it.
Yes,
you understand?
but that's how they treat Tobago.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing. So the reason why I keep pushing this envelope is because we are really talking about representation at the highest level on behalf of the people of the. You would think,
even in the midst of a disaster,
of course. So you would think that the two representatives that we hired for this type of job, regardless of your political affiliation, would somehow be advocating on the part of Tobago because of the immediacy of the thing.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So let's talk a little more about that, about the exposure of the teaching, money that we done short of already, and so on. In terms of the support from that central government facility.
Yes.
Talk about when that support come and what impact that had.
Right. So before I go there, let me tell you what we had to do, and as a responsible government. So in 2022, we separated the contingency account and we unspent. So we had a contingency account where unspent and all the monies was commingling.
Right.
And the Auditor General always used to give us a licking for that.
Right.
So we corrected it in 2022 and we said that we're going to have two funds. We're going to have a contingency fund for urgent and unforeseen expenditure, and we were going to have an unspent balance account.
Right.
That would treat with like European CPEP.
Yes.
That 18 and 9 million that they're giving us.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And not increasing it. It's 18 million since I was in the THE.
Yes.
Right? We have to supplement from the unspent. So therefore we said, listen, let us have a separate fund just in case Tobago is faced with any disaster or emergency. We had just started to fund the contingency account because there was an executive council approval to start this contingency and how much it would start with, and every year what percentage of the unspent that would go into this fund.
Got you.
Pastor Baines, we took every single cent. That account has less than $1 million right now. We took every single cent from that account and paid. We paid 6 of the critical service providers that did the cleanup for the oil spill. 6. The ones who provided the booms, the high-tech equipment, the divers,
Yes.
your friend Curtis Douglas, who was
Yes.
costing
Yes,
up
yes,
in the
yes,
space,
yes.
paid them. There was another agency that provided marine resources and marine services. We had international agencies that actually came in and gave us support as well. We took every cent and we paid them an initial, and that was $15 million we spent on 6 service providers. At the same time, there was the caterer,
Right.
the hotels,
Yes.
the hardwares,
Yes.
squealing on us.
Yeah, yeah,
And we
yeah.
are saying,
And
we have
transportation,
asked,
all them kind of things.
all is, I can't even finish
Right.
naming all these services that we had to activate at
Right,
the time.
right.
But what we did, those involving the high-tech
Sure.
cleanup
Sure.
services, we tried to settle those because those were in the millions.
Yes.
And those, some of them were international companies and companies from Trinidad. Now, I don't want to be going to hit me a blow because I'm talking about Trinidadian contractors. In Tobago, we did not have the resources.
Certainly.
We don't have the
certainly.
technical resources, we
Yes,
don't have the
yes.
physical resources,
Right,
so
right.
we had to bring in
Right,
about
right.
3 companies from
Of course,
Trinidad.
of course.
And that's why we have the results for today. That's why the cleanup, was expedited in such a manner.
Right.
Right, so we utilized that. Then the mid-year review came. So we wrote the minister. And we didn't ask for the oil spill monies alone. We asked for oil spill, and I did indicate to you, we asked at the time for 153.5 because we asked for up to September. This happened in February, and the mid-year we were asking from February to September, and that came up to 153.5. In that request, I did outline and report the actual invoices we had on hand.
Right.
And at the time, the mid-year review was about March, April, that letter. So I would have had February and March actual invoices that I was able to tell the ministry, look, these are the invoices that I have on hand,
Right.
which I have not paid, and some of which we paid, as I told you,
Yes.
from the contingency. That was about 50 million. But let me give it correctly. It was about $48 million, not 50. It was 47.5 something million. February didn't have the highest amount. It was March which had the highest at the time. And we asked, and I just want to outline to the public the categories of expenditure. It's cleanup and remediation expenditure, compensation payments, because there were some entities and homes that were affected and they were asking for compensation from us. Fisher Folk was asking for compensation as well. Medical and healthcare expenditure, which we anticipated because of the exposure to the oil spill. Monitoring and assessment, we had to do an environmental and social impact of the oil spill and how that would affect the environment. Legal and regulatory expenditure, we thought that we would have to take legal action for whoever the vessel belonged to. Public relations and communication, we had to communicate daily. I don't know if people remember the chief secretary every day communicating with the public on where we were at, so we had to pay for that. An honorarium, as I did indicate, we did pay an honorarium for those persons from TIMA and OSH who worked 24/7. And then we had to have consultancy and committee fees, because I did indicate to you we had to have a committee to oversee the entire oil spill operations, and then we had to hire consultants to assist us. We've never had an oil spill before. So all of those costs were outlined, and there is no Prado. There is absolutely no category for 2 Prados. I'll tell you something. We don't even get our basic needs met. We will ask for 2 Prados. This is an oil spill. This is a serious disaster. And we took it seriously, and we didn't go to the government asking for any frills. What we presented to the Ministry of Finance was actual expenditure and projected. But here what they did, that 50 million represented only February and March. And to date, we have not received an additional cent from the government for the oil spill. You know what we had to do? We had to not pay someone else. Not pay for another service that we already incurred. And pay these service providers as a responsible government. And that's what I said. We spent 72 million. As at, we're in April, as at somewhere early March, there was about $4 million outstanding for the oil spill. I think it's still in processing because, as you know, we have to shift resources internally. We have priority projects. We have so many things that we have to do in the THE. We still have a few invoices to pay. We are trying to settle all. of them. We are trying to ensure that all service providers got a touch.
Yes.
And they were paid off for the oil spill.
Right.
So
Listen,
the difference between the 50 and 76,
yes,
we had to find it
right,
internally.
Right. Secretary, I mean, I don't know if we'll have an opportunity for another round of conversation, but we almost at the top of the hour and the time is on us, right? I heard, and show some clarity, that some international agency provided funding for oil spill cleanup, and somewhere I think they hear this story that the chief secretary or some was in London or somewhere and bunks up some officials from Trinidad.
There's an international agency called the IOPC, International Oil Spill Compensation Fund, well, ITOF.
Yes.
And anytime there are disasters such as oil spills, they activate, they get involved.
Right.
So what we did, because they are not under us,
right,
we gave the fisher folk and those who were affected, we gave them the support to apply and how to apply.
Right,
we gave them that kind of support. They met with us. They came about 3 weeks ago. They met with us and said that we should meet with the Ministry of Energy and that kind of thing. So the process of applying for the relief has started.
Right.
For those who, and I must mention that we also gave compensation because of the time frame.
Right.
For this compensation from the IOPC, we gave a $2 million compensation to the fisher folk because we know it would this would take some time.
Yes.
But I just want to say to the people of Tobago, because time is of the essence, that this Tobago People's Party are serving you.
Right.
We take governance very seriously. What you're hearing on the hustings on the political platforms in terms of how we manage is totally not true, right. Especially what I recently heard I think they were in Goodwood, talking about there was a request for 2 Prados.
Yes.
I am the one that did it as the chief management accountant at the time, and I know that is ludicrous. It's baseless, it's senseless, and it doesn't make sense.
Well, it's a lie. That is what it is.
But I don't understand. There are some that says to every untruth there is some element of truth, but in this case I don't know. I don't understand.
Well, it's the political recklessness, and what people that tend to believe in a political campaign, because I am sure that you have everybody there who's PNM cheering and clapping their hands to
they're
the
asking
nonsense.
me to provide
You understand?
that we didn't.
Yes.
I don't know how to do that because we sent to the Ministry of Finance. We sent a projection for February to September.
So they will have the documentation as to what you sent.
And I also sent. They wanted a list of every single service provider, and that's how they gave us the 50 million. So 2 Prados, I don't know.
That is not something you can't miss that in the report. So while the Prime Minister was up in Goodwood talking the nonsense, he should have been able to put up the documentation and say this is what it is.
By now, but I really want to make this point to the people of Tobago. With the 2 representatives that we have, the 2 candidates that are vying to become the members of Parliament representing the Tobago's People Party and representing Tobago, we really need those voices in the Parliament.
Indeed.
I didn't get to touch on legislation. There are some legislation, like the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority, that was passed in December, just before Christmas. I think it was 2021. I think it was 2021. They passed that legislation without any consultation from Tobago, or even they probably did consultation. But what we have brought up in terms of what we would like to see, the provisions we would like to see in that act, they did not take into consideration at all. So therefore, we need to see some amendments to that. So we need the representatives to represent Tobago at that level.
Of course, man. Listen, the time has gone. The DJ is in the seat. And we have to get out of here, right? The reason why we've put this information in this space, the reason why I thought it was pertinent to have the conversation with the Secretary of Finance, not just so much to clarify that nonsense about the product, but to give a general overview of what the financial situation is in the Tobago space, how we've been managing that, and the impact of the lack thereof and the shortage of the finances, how that impacts the population, and also the responsibility of the 2 representatives that we have had for the past 10 years to represent those interests, those matters that are pertinent to the livelihood and the development of the Tobago people. So we hope that this information impacts your decision come the 28th, that you vote in Tobago East for Mr. David Thomas and also in Tobago West for Mr. Joel Nutsi Sampson. These are the offerings of the TPP. And tomorrow morning on the program, we will have the Tobago East candidate, Mr. David Thomas, where we could ventilate some of the things further. And then on Wednesday, we're going to have Mr. Sampson, Joel Nutsi Sampson. So we're going to take the conversation a little further. God bless you. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are glad that the Secretary of Finance was able to grace us with her presence. We hope we could squeeze in perhaps another session before we get done. You take good care. All right, be safe out there in this Easter celebration. God bless. We gone. All right, guys. Bye.
Sorry to barging on you guys like that.
No, that is your work.
Right?
Well, time is time.
Yeah.